This is part 5 in a series about the establisher of the Bahá'í Faith. On August 8, 1969, Dr. Leland Jensen was sent to Montana State Prison in Deer Lodge. He was stunned, convicted on false charges, cut off from his work, his family, and his community. He found himself crying out in prayer, "Oh God, why does this injustice happen to someone who's been a servant to your cause for all these years?" He then remembered the teachings of the faith, that we are called to meet life's challenges with a spirit of steadfastness and trust. God had allowed Jesus Christ to be crucified. He had allowed the Bab to be martyred. Baha'u'llah had spent 40 years in prison and exile. If they could endure injustice, so could he. But that didn't make life in prison any less difficult. He was mocked by the inmates who called him Dirty Jacket. A jacket is slang for a person's criminal file, and a dirty jacket is a sexual crime against a minor. Others called him Bibleback for his constant reading of Scripture and teaching of the Bahá'í Faith. 6 weeks in, Doc received a letter from Mason Remey, who is now living in Florence, Italy. It described an unexpected visit from Rex King. Mason wrote, "I told Rex that as Lucifer in Old Testament days chose to put truth aside and espouse the cause of Satan, so had he done in these modern times, obliging me to cast him out from all association in this world with the people of God, his station to be that of Satan forevermore." Doc had mixed feelings. Mason didn't have divine authority to cast someone into the station of Satan for eternity. But he understood the spirit of what Mason was trying to say. Rex had become obsessed with spiritual power, and that kind of ambition, the drive to claim a higher station than God has given, is the root of the satanic impulse. After Mason dissolved the National Assembly that Rex had once led, Rex claimed that Mason, then in his 90s, was senile and promoted the idea of becoming a regent guardian, someone to hold the guardianship in Mason's stead. He brought letters of support and tried to convince Mason to appoint him. Instead, Mason called him Satan. Rex had made his play, and it failed. It was then that something extraordinary happened. Doc returned to his cell after lunch and found a Bible tossed between the bars. He noticed the name of a former inmate, Myron Gardapi, inscribed on the inside cover. Myron was a friend who had been released earlier that day and left the Bible as a gift. Doc had a habit of opening books at random, often discovering something meaningful. This time, it opened to Zechariah chapter 3. He began reading. "Then he showed me Joshua the high priest standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan standing at his right hand to oppose him. And the Lord said to Satan, 'The Lord rebuke you, Satan.'" Doc paused. That very morning, he had received the letter from Mason rebuking Rex King, likening him to Satan. And here was a passage about a high priest named Joshua being resisted by Satan, and the Lord rebuking him. The parallel stood out. He thought of 1963, the convention where Rex first resisted him. He kept reading. "The Lord who has chosen Jerusalem rebuke you. Is this not a brand plucked from the fire?" He remembered Brenda Norton, the woman who had convinced Rex that the hands had violated the covenant. She said at that convention, "I plucked Rex out of the fire." Another parallel that was starting to get eerie. Continuing, Now Joshua was clothed in filthy garments. Doc thought back to those first few days in prison, walking to the chow hall and the inmates taunting, "Dirty jacket, dirty jacket." He too had been clothed symbolically in filthy garments. "Take away the filthy garments from him. I have caused thine iniquity to pass from thee." He wondered, could this also happen to him? "Let them set a fair mitre upon his head." He looked up the word. A mitre is the ceremonial headpiece of the Jewish high priest. Doc continued reading. "If thou wilt walk in my ways, then thou shalt also judge my house, and shalt also keep my courts." The reference to courts struck him. Shoghi Effendi had been building the structure of Baha'i courts around the world. The International Baha'i Council was meant to become a Baha'i World Court on Mount Carmel, and the local houses, the local national spiritual assemblies were supposed to evolve into local houses of justice. That plan was abandoned when the hands took control. Then he read, "Hear now, O Joshua the high priest, for behold, I will bring forth my servant, the branch." The word branch stood out. It was all capitalized. Oh my gosh, he thought. The most great branch is Abdul Baha, and the guardians are all branches, Agsan, of that line. He whispered, "This isn't history, this is prophecy." But then he recoiled. What am I thinking? Am I this person? I never dreamed of being anything. He grew agitated, disturbed by the thought. Then came verse 9. "For behold, the stone that I have laid before Joshua, upon one stone shall be 7 eyes. 7 eyes. How could a stone have 7 eyes? He looked around. No stone, no eyes, nothing unusual. Then he heard an unmistakable presence. "Dr. Jensen, you are the Joshua of the 3rd chapter of Zechariah. You will establish the branch in the world." He said he felt it, but he resisted. "I don't want to be corrupted by some illusion," he said. "If I ever accept this, it will be with practical evidence, not a voice." He tried to put it out of his mind. Soon after, he was offered a typing job in the prison fingerprint department. Doc agreed to take the job with permission to rest if his lung condition flared up. One day, he overheard a guard say, "They're bringing in another one through Tower 7. Doc looked out the window. He asked the guard, "That's a stone wall, right?" "Yes," the guard said, "all of it." Doc asked, "How many towers are there?" 7, the guard replied, pointing them out one by one. "You come in through Tower 7, and you go out through Tower 7. Doc froze. 7 watchtowers, all looking in. A stone wall with 7 eyes. He returned to his cell, pale as a ghost. "The only reason I rejected what I heard," he said, "was that there was no stone with 7 eyes. Now I know the whole prison is the stone with 7 eyes." He kept it to himself. But when his wife Opal came to visit, she noticed something had changed. She asked him, "What's going on?" Doc finally told her. "I'm the Zechariah of chapter 3, and it's my job to establish the branch." Opal didn't flinch. "I knew that," she said. "The prophecies say that the knights will establish the cause, and we're the only ones left." In the next episode, we'll look at how Dr. Leland Jensen fulfilled prophecies by name, date, address, and mission. Until then, visit schooloftheland.com.